Improving detail. Here I have a mesh within the UDK, and right here it looks good, and if you get a little bit closer, it kind of looks like the same old meshes that you always see in the UDK under default browsing rights. You just look at it and you're like, oh, that looks good, and you get closer and you're like, it needs something. So the need something is what I want to address with the brick here. I want to make it so it's a little bit higher res. And how can I do that after the fact? Well, here in Photoshop I have that, and I also have this cement. Okay, this cement is very detailed. If you go online and look for it, it's like 3648 by 2736. It's huge. But if you put that on a layer, so this is what it looks like before. I just duplicated it around a few times without the harsh spot. So all I did was go grabbing a piece, edit, copy, go over here, edit, paste, and then you take an eraser and just like that, and like that, and then you kind of move it around a little bit, and you can use Alt to duplicate it. Control E to drop it down. So that adds like this detail to the brick that wasn't there before. Okay, all you do is have to set it to overlay. And you can set several of these to overlay if you wanted to. The more you add to overlay, the lighter it gets though. So you got to watch that. It will take your color and augment it. Now you can also play around with it if you're on a PC. You just click in this box and you wheel around a little bit until you get that color that you really want. And you can see that you can add quite a bit of detail to these bricks. Also know that there's an opacity setting. So if you want, you can add many layers and then set the opacity down. So the idea here is to get as close as possible to the brick, and then you can see right in here how much that really adds. Sometimes it's adding a little bit too much though. Be careful of the white. See that white stuff right here, the blown out pixels? In most cases you don't want that. You want just like the overlay. Too much contrast like that will ruin it. Okay, let's save this. And I have this located as a TGA right here. Now, if you right click on this, you'll go and there's a way to see where this is at on your hard drive. Find and explore. If you ever can't find it, that's a great way to find it. This is embedded within the FBX itself. So that's going to make it a little harder to deal with. That means I would have to have the original scene within Maya to augment it. Luckily I have that. It's right here. So that's one bad thing about embedding your textures within an FBX, is because you're going to be dealing with, if you need to repair something, how do you really do that? Okay, so that one is cement, or no, brick trim color map. So if I double click on that one, double click on this, I'll have a real-time preview. And this is where it should have been right there. Cool. That means I would have to export selection, my wall FBX, and this is what I'm talking about is include media. If you look, embed media is within the FBX. Let me get I'm going to re-import this by just going like this. And you can see how much more detail that put in there. Now, if you didn't have access to that, here's another way you could do it. Right click, import. And import the texture. For me, if I'm importing a texture within the UDK, I always try to keep it within a work in progress directory. That way, if I ever need to change it again, I can. That means if you go here, here is my brick trim color map. I can copy that and move it to UDK here, UDK game, content, work in progress, and put it in a folder. And when I import it into the engine, it'll always be in that directory and I can change it. Now it'll say replace. So there's a couple different ways you can kind of update textures. There we go, a lot more detail. Now this will have some light mass issues because I need to reinvent the UVs on it for the light mass channel. Okay, but not too bad. What that means is here I have channel 0 has UVs, but channel 1 does not, so it doesn't have any light mass UVs. I would have to generate some new ones. I used the 0 to 1 and hit apply. And now if I display my UVs for channel 1, I should have them. These are tiny UVs, so that means I would have to have a lot of light mass resolution. I would suggest for something these little tiny small things like that, just on this mesh alone, 1024. I know that's huge for light mass, but that's the only way to really get around having really small pieces like that. All right. There we go, and let's go in here and build the lighting. So you can now see the results of that, the augmented. I don't have the other one to stand it side by side, but you can see the detail on this brick looks a lot better closer up. Okay, now what I would like to do is probably look at some shading issues and what you can do about those in the next video.